De mare.
Welcome, family. Thank you for tuning in. Help me in welcoming Frankie, who is an old family member of mine, and it's so great to now bring him into the Africa Week 2020 time, which is the reason we reconnected, because he thought, okay, this person either lost her mind or is going through something serious to be planning.
The first one. The never-ending Africa Week.
The never-ending
24 hours a day.
Mind you, he's talking about our inaugural Africa Week 2020. He's talking about the one in May. And you know what?
It has never ended. It has never ended. It's official. It's everlasting.
That's what we said, you know? Even as a concept, Africa Week started as a form of celebration of Africa Day. And then there was too much going on and too much happening. I was like, no, we're not just going to celebrate Africa for one day. We're going to go for the week. And even there was so much to do. So it's just like, every day is Africa Day, Frankie. And you know what? If we had the capacity, if we had more people to do this back end logistic stuff that would allow people to hop in, I assure you it would have been a never ending Africa Week. And I'm hoping we will reach that at some point. But
I hope so too. You need to break Facebook, you know, just pull up verses, you know, like Dima, Africa Week. Yeah, we're breaking all of Instagram. Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, our first week wasn't that bad. Our inaugural week, we had over 44,000 people tune in. So that's
really good.
That's not too bad. It's like, did not see that coming, but okay. Let's see how we can grow this. Let's see who else we can bring in with every reunion, because this is our 5th reunion now. Every month we've had a reunion where we are trying to get out of the framework of events and organization in that sense. So they're reunions, and we've had shorter ones throughout the month. So
May you always have some event somewhere, and
every month we'll have at least one for about 12 hours or something, so we don't go as extensive as we are this time around. We have 2 biannual week-long ones.
Okay.
One is for African Heritage Month, which is right now in September, and the other one is the original the inaugural Africa Day one, which is the Africa Week one in May. But more importantly, Frankie, you are back in Kenya.
Yes, I am.
Tell me, but also whoever's tuning in, family, wherever you're tuning in from the world, let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hello in your language, and stay tuned, because Frankie's about to drop some gems about the grand and not so grand returns to the continent.
Oh, Lord. Where do you want to start? You got to ask the question.
West Virginia.
It's actually Virginia. Leaving Virginia.
Wait, what is Virginia? You were in EMU.
Harrison. Yeah, it's in Virginia, Harrisonburg, Virginia.
What was in West Virginia?
What was in West Virginia? I don't
JMU
know.
is in Virginia?
Yes, James is in Virginia.
You see, this is why I don't do directions. This is why I don't drive, because I'm driven. I don't really care where things are.
Oh,
I know I'll get there.
she's driven, guys. She is driven. Woo! Lord, help us. Jesus.
Frankie, I will not respond to the provocation. Keep going.
So, anyway, the whole Virginia thing, I was probably at the end of my H-1B, and I was sort of like trying to renew it, but also starting to look at what opportunities were in Africa. So actually, the year before I had left, I'd come to visit Kenya to just see what the market is like. And at least I had an idea of what was possible and what money you can make. So I wasn't actually going without an idea of what the plan would be and so on. So that's one thing I would advise. Before, if it's possible, sometimes it's not possible. If it's possible, go for a month, fill out the place, fill out the opportunities, fill out the business, ask around, be intentional about it. If it's possible, again, make sure the trip is focused on the needs that you have for career and so on, because it's very easy for your family to come and take over your whole schedule. And sometimes the focus that family has is not the focus that you have from a career perspective. So that's one big lesson that I learned. When I came that period of time, it was probably the best advice I ever got. Go with career in mind and not so much family. So I really did share that I was home, and my family didn't like that and so on. But hey, I was there to make sure that I can at least survive if I come home. And the opportunities are there. It's just that there's a different way how things work.
So to go with the career goals in mind.
Yes. Go with you're making a trip. If you make a trip that is family based, there's so much time that you have to devote to visiting grandma, aunties, favorite cousins, favorite spots, having fun, and so on. But if it's focused on career, you are focused on setting up meetings, preparing your portfolio, your head game is in the career path and so on, and not trying to divide yourself in different constituencies. That's at least that's how I work. I like to compartmentalize some things, so that's yeah.
I'm not saying anything. No, but that's great advice. To get that feel before that shock, because so often you have people be like, all right, yeah, no, I can do it, I got this, it's nothing serious, but you have, as you said, you have a certain visualization of something in your mind, and then your family has a completely different idea, and then the creator has a completely third idea, where it's just like
this is how I've set up the path for you, and you go through it the way I envisioned for you to go through it.
So what is your field, Frankie? What did you study?
Oh, wow. I studied art, communication, and finance at EMU. And
Not at all an overachiever.
So, I mean, you come from Africa, and I'll tell you a story. My biggest shock when I was at EMU was the library was open 24 hours a day. I could not believe that. I was like, you guys don't close? Like, y'all are serious? You don't close? Okay. So when the library is supposed to close at 10, I can stay in the library as long as I have a key. Yeah. Okay. That was it. I mean, I was done with all the coursework for my art degree in 1 year.
I'm knocking on wood in case. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it was insane.
So you
So,
did
I mean,
communication and finance? Like you actually
yes,
had 3 degrees.
yeah.
I swear, if anyone asks me why I say we are Africa rising,
The hardest thing, if you've got talent, the art stuff will be easy, and that I had in States, still have, and finance was the difficult one because I mean that I literally needed to reread, get tuition, get remedial classes done and stuff. So it's if you know where you're going and you know what you what skill sets that you want to use, it's not going to be that difficult. But it's really good to do your best because once you've got the skills, once you've got the the knowledge, you know the tools, no one can ever take away that from you. Like no one can ever take away finance from you. So I use it every day. Like when I go and do pitches for companies and everything, I might be one of the few creatives that actually looks at that bottom line. Like I've literally studied your balance sheet and I'm telling you, yeah, you'll make money on this, or nah, you're not gonna make money on this. You can pay me for it, but you'll not end up getting any ROI. So yeah.
and was that the plan all along? Was that what you had in mind all along? That's
Yeah.
when you started your okay. So I guess let's take a step back. When you left Kenya to go to Virginia, what were you going to study?
I was going to study art and probably biology. So yeah, I was really good at biology and chemistry. So I was set on, yeah, I was really gonna do that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But I got some really good advice when I came in about sort of aligning your talents and your career. So then I made the switch, and then we had to pay a lot of extra tuition to do some of the science classes. So yeah, that made the choice for me because I was already spending a buttload on art supplies. So I didn't have enough left for, oh yeah, go buy your own microscope. Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But once you made that transition and took on finance, was it then, did you have an idea that ultimately this is the goal was always to go back to Kenya?
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you surprised
But
by how quickly you went back? And you froze.
sorry. Do you have me?
Yeah, you're here. I
Okay.
was asking, are you
So
surprised by how quickly you ended up going back? Because you were saying eventually, like eventually there was the idea, but I
yeah,
sense that you didn't think you would be going back as quickly as you did.
no, I didn't. I thought I'd probably have another 7 to 10 years in the US before I would go back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why the change?
Um, Actually, it wasn't. It was a mixture of my dad being sick and just the H1B situation and trying to review that. So I used the H1B crisis situation because I was at the end of the 7 years of the H1B. So I love crises because they make you use, you think about things. So the hard part is having to think differently as you're going through the crisis. So it was an opportunity for me to see all the other things that I had never considered at that particular point in time. You laugh at me, but it's really, really good. Crises are
I'm
good.
not laughing. I have so many comments in response. In fact, I'm putting it down as tip 2: reframe your relationship with crisis.
It's true. They're good. They help you think about. It's the only time where the unthinkable is pondered.
Is what?
Is pondered. Like you get to really explore all the decisions you'd never make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were in crisis, you've reassessed, and you decided, nah, I'm not gonna stay here for another 6 to 7 years. I'm just gonna up
Just
and
gonna
go.
go. Yep. Literally had 2 weeks to move out. Yeah.
After how
So,
long in the US? How long had you been in the US?
oh my God, almost 14 years. No,
Okay, 14 years. You packed 14 years in 2 weeks. I don't feel as bad now.
I mean, I had to, and it was in the middle of the World Cup, so you can imagine uh, there's the Brazil versus Germany match is happening while you're packing your boxes and screaming at the same time, almost throwing boxes at the TV. It's insane. It was fun.
I can so see that too. I can see that. See you do that. I can. I can.
I mean, go back and watch that match, and you will understand all the emotions that any any male who goes through watching the leather thing kicked around the field. We've got so much emotion for that game.
I see you still carrying some of these emotions. We have Joe tuning in from the Philippines. Hello, Joe. Joe Mar, thank
Hi,
you for
Joe.
yes. We are talking
Awesome.
about going back to the continent, going home, and how to get ready, how to be prepared for what will meet us. Because, you know, as much as it's home, as much as we're returning, as much as we're going to be with family, we left and we were gone for some time. And whatever we
Yeah.
picked up along the way impacted how we've grown, how we've changed, how we see things, how we deal with things. And returning back with everything we've learned. Yeah, it can be fun. It can be fun. What is your first memory when you think of that? When you think of that, okay, I'm back. And like the
Um,
moment it's sunk in to you, the moment you're just like, wow, I'm really back. Is it too late right now?
well, it's when I go to the US Embassy and I need to sign up for a visa because up to that point in time, I've never needed a tourist visa. I mean, I've been on H1B like for so long. It's so you are used to like, oh yeah, I can walk through here. I even have someone at the embassy's phone number and everything, and yeah, you get your issues resolved. Now you're back to commoner status.
He said,
Yeah,
"Come status."
yep. Get in the line. Yes, you need to wait your turn. Yes. Do you have all your documents in order? No, not that the documents were already mailed to the embassy. No. You're back.
Okay, okay.
But
What was the first
then,
thing you did? What was the first thing you did when you're back? Like, you know, for you,
oh,
something for you, other than, you know, of course, you saw the family, paid your respects and all, but the first thing you did for you.
for me, I think was install Wi-Fi. We need Wi-Fi for everything, so that was the thing I did for me, right? I mean, you've got no idea how like, oh yeah, everyone else is operating without Wi-Fi and they're okay with it, but you're struggling. My life is on the internet, so
Are you really gonna sit here and tell me I have no idea when I'm telling you I packed my life in Washington, D.C. and moved to my village that just got electricity a year and a half ago.
Thank you for correcting me. You know more than I do. Yes, yes. Why don't you give us an experience of what it was for you to transition from, Washington, D.C. to, what's your village's name again?
Kabaja.
Oh, Kabaja. Ah, yeah.
I'll tell you all about that after I tell you why I'm coming to Kenya post-COVID madness. I connected with a whole bunch of Nubian brothers and sisters in Kenya, and we're gonna have a reunion there. So, but this isn't about me. This is about you being in Kenya. This is about you putting everything you have learned, everything you have acquired in the US into building what is now your business.
Yes. So I think you asked me what I did for myself, and Wi-Fi seems so tiny, but it was the beginning of like being able to connect with other people and other businesses. So the biggest lesson I learned through that as I was transitioning was do more listening and don't think you're the expert. You come from outside thinking that you're the expert, but you need to do a lot more listening and learn what's going on around you, because you always feel like you have all the solutions because you've employed them in the US or all around the world, but you're home and there's a way they do things, and sometimes it's not how you do things. Yeah. So I've had to do a lot of listening and relearning, at least, and so on. So that's something that I always do for me, because like when let's say I fail at something, I'll actually take time to analyze what happened. Like, just like I told you, crises are good. It's a good time to review, because the unthinkable is what you're now willing to look at it seriously.
Mm. Are you comfortable sharing with us one of these failures?
When I came back, I actually thought that I would get a job at one of the design agencies and everything, because I had won so many awards in the US for everything: photography, graphic design, video, all this stuff. So, I mean, my resume is stacked. Yeah, but when you walk into those rooms, what you don't realize is everyone looks at you like competition, and they would rather stop you from even competing than actually having to go toe to toe with you in a boardroom. So, yeah, those were some of the things that I ran into. And I mean, I slowly figured out that, yeah, you're welcome, not here, but you're welcome.
Somewhere else. Over there.
Somewhere else. Over there's pretty good, but not here.
Okay, well, again, I guess it's a bit. I guess that's a bit similar, at least, to what you would. Okay.
Yeah.
Was it because you were abroad?
I think so. That's part of it, but part of it is you talk about concepts and all the things about your industry so easily, and for like if I'm in the interview, for the person who owns the business, they see you as the best gem that has ever been found, and they want you in the business. But his team that is advising him will probably look at you like, he'll not fit in here. He'll have all these heady concepts and will never come down, and so on. So there's that clash of ideas. And as a business owner, you kind of have to go with what is currently bringing you money. So if they recommend that you don't get hired, that's what happens. You don't get hired. And I mean, the other reality about working in Kenya is that no one will also hire you without Kenyan experience. So now you can figure out no one.
doesn't matter who you know, what you know, nothing. If you don't have Kenyan experience,
You
it won't work.
you can have all those connections, but you see, if you join when you through an intermediary, or if someone has laid the path for you, you'll always encounter issues because as soon as that person is out of the seat, your job is gone.
Okay.
So, what is better? It's better to earn your stripes, get the job, as opposed to going the other way because as soon as that person leaves, your career is over in that industry. Yeah.
So how do people start getting experience in Kenya if no one's going to hire them if they don't have experience in Kenya?
Um, what I saw was a lot of people were doing work at very subsidized rates and literally for free, just to show that they know what they're doing. But everyone can sniff that around you, and they want to take advantage of you. So at some point, I think the thing that helped me was I knew I'm too talented to do work for free. So yeah.
True, though, it's true. I've seen the talent. I've seen the talent. I acknowledge. I approve.
Yeah.
True.
So there was no way I was going to do something for free. So literally, I think my first few contracts, I think I went through 12 jobs that refused to take me on if I was not doing work for them for free. And I was like, peace be with you. I will do my thing, you do your thing. When I get an opportunity, I'll give it my all, but I can't give it my all without getting some remuneration on the other side. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's part of the stubbornness that comes with that finance head. You can always see how much money you're losing, and you're like, oh God, no, not again.
Well, I guess that comes in very handy because I know with me it still is a bit of a challenge, and I know I definitely will. It's how I started my consulting is that I did a lot of work for free.
Yeah.
It was after I finished my PhD, and I was back here in the US, and no one was hiring me, no organization was hiring me. Obviously,
Mhm.
I cause a bit too much trouble, and I'm too loud for anyone's comfort. Um, and I'm unboxable. So they can't really put me in a box and tell me what I am. And
You have never been boxable all your life.
sure,
I wish we could interview your sister. And I said, so what was Dima like? What is she like now?
I don't think anyone can respond to that. I don't
Okay.
think I can respond to that. I don't know what I'm like.
I would love to be asking the questions on that session. So if we can organize it, I would be the moderator, gladly moderate that.
I will send you her contact information. You all can arrange that. I will not be part of this touring party. No, thank you.
But it is difficult. Like, I mean, if we're being real, when for any international to move from academia to industry and to make it work, it's a difficult shift that needs to happen. And I think that's where the gap is in a lot of these academic institutions. Maybe an entity to help people navigate that world, that space between, hey, here I am with all my credentials. I'm very good at reading and studying and getting the grades, but I now want to apply it to business. And that's what I went to JMU to do because, like, my department was all about you're in school, this is what you do on a daily basis, this is what Apple, Google, Accenture, Booz Allen will ask you to do on an annual basis. This is how you navigate work politics. This is how you structure your career. This is how you rise up the ladder if it's important to you. This is when you decide to leave. I mean, I would have all these questions sorted for a lot of the international students that I was working with by that time. Even, I mean, we go as far as when do you want to have your kids? Because it's something that is important to you. And you have to know when to structure it, because in a US environment or in a foreign environment, you have to be thinking about these things. Career, family sometimes don't mesh with industry.
This bridge is a little bit of what we're trying to implement with the Ubuntu Fellowship
Yeah.
started here. It is exactly that, is the recent graduate or graduates to be that need to prepare and sort of, in this world where everything matters in your resume and your CV and, you know, all these keywords and whatever, how do you make that transition that they're able to apply the work that they're doing when you're either overqualified or underexperienced? Because that's what I was told, and this is why I had to do all this work for free, to prove that I am able and capable to do this work, because I was 25 years old, I had my PhD, and I had some experience teaching, but I didn't have the publication. So if I was trying to get into academia, I didn't have the publications for it. And if I was trying to do any work other than academia, I had no experience in it. So overqualified, underexperienced. And it's a vicious cycle that will keep, especially for our emerging, this emerging generation of wave makers.
And you can imagine the depression someone can go through after working so hard and not having something to show at the end of the journey. And especially when your peers are the ones who look at you and they're the one, it's their questions that are the most bruising, you know. So you work so hard for what?
You're you're telling me.
Touching a raw nerve.
I'm not even joking. There were like a solid 3 years of proper clinical depression where I was just like, why did I go through everything I went through? What was the point? Because, you know, it didn't make sense, because, you know, everything we were told growing up, you know, work hard, put in the work, do this, things will pay off. Now, I
Absolutely.
graduated with honors in each of my degrees, and somehow here I am, 3 degrees later. I am holding a terminal degree from one of the most prestigious universities in my field under one of the best supervisors in that field. And still, I'm not being hired. Not even am I not being hired, I wasn't even getting responded to for these applications. Like, so can someone just tell me we received the application? They don't have to tell me you got the job or that there's an interview. Just tell me you received, just tell me you rejected. Say anything. So it really does take a toll. And more than the words or the questions of the friends, the unspoken words and the unspoken, these looks that you know what these looks are saying. And it's not just from our friends, it's also from our family. And it's even more so from the family, because, you know, they're looking at it like, you spent all this time away from us. You've been all the way there, and for what? You're what are you doing with your life right now? And as much as they want to support it,
and it's difficult because when you're back, they want to, you've done all this work to reframe the conversation and present a different alternate reality for me as a woman, and this is where I am. And when you get back, it's like you're being told, well, this is what we know, the traditional, everything that you are trying to debunk, that's now what you have to become to be accepted. And I mean, I can just imagine the internal conflict that you have to go through to navigate that world. And especially for, I mean, sometimes I think that, not I think, I know the men have it a lot easier during that path. And there's so many other unknown equations that women have to go through to figure out that. And sometimes you don't even figure it out. Sometimes you just make do with what is there. And my God, yeah, it's a tough one.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then don't forget the added ticking clock that's just like ticking, in your body, in your head, in your mom's head, in the entire and then all you're hearing. No, it's the struggle is real. It's real.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
this is a very, very, for me that was one of my most difficult challenges, because I'm in the US. I had no intention of coming back.
yeah.
When I left to England to pursue my postgraduate, it's like, okay, I'll go. Don't really think I would, back in the days of naivety, I was like, oh, I'm going to go get my PhD. I'm going to be the first female president of Sudan. Sure.
It's not far-fetched, because you see the ambition and the pathway to get there is, there's never been one,
No.
and
I'm not saying that ambition isn't like, I'm not saying,
yeah.
I'm just saying that's not something I'm interested in, nope. Nah.
But I think you should reconsider it. And I'll tell you why. Because I've never seen, or I've never experienced any woman's path that is charted by people who've gone through it the exact similar way and so on. And there's still going to be difficulties, even though that one breaks that glass ceiling, there's always going to be difficulties. And I mean, I imagine that. And what about now the ones who have to move from, like let's say you had a thriving job in Washington D.C. and you have to move home at short notice. When you move home, everyone is looking at you like, "Yep, you're single. We need to get you hitched up. We need to get you like starting your household and everything." And guys don't have to go through that. Like,
No, they weren't trying to marry you off, Frank.
oh, they're still trying to marry me off even right now. It's a daily struggle.
Better get invited to that wedding.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I'm
You just couldn't let that go.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out to the universe, But yeah, you're very right. That's one of the first things they told me when I went to the village. And the next morning, mind you, I arrived that night. I arrived at like 7 or 8 p.m. to the village. Next morning, it wasn't even 10. So get married from this village, and I'm just like, okay. And the talk about where I've been the past 30 years of my life. Where have you been in my life, out of my life, for the past 30 years of my life? But on some level, I think it's a way to keep. It's a way to know you're not going to leave again. I think on some level.
I think it's that, but you can't. You are you. Like, I think I've always known you to be the person who. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. It's good to see Frankie in action here. This is great. I'm gonna take you to the kitchen because I'm gonna heat this up.
I'll change to. So they didn't the number? No. I'll communicate. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hey, okay, so I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that you can't stop them from being themselves. You see, their whole lifestyle, this is how they've known how to navigate life. And knowing you, you've always broken the mold. You know, yeah, you're not the proverbial. So I mean, when you encounter them, they are being who they are, and they're just doing their best at being who they are and offering solutions that have worked for them. You present them with what looks to them as similar issues, and for them it's very easy. Let's get her married. She'll be here, and all her problems will be solved.
Here are the symptoms.
Yep. And
This is
you can fight it, but you're not going. It's going to be hard for you to win. At some point, you'll cave, and if you don't cave, you'll break a bond. But I think the bravest thing that families can do is give you grace, and also you give them grace, and you find a middle ground with how you can exist. Because I think when I first got here, my obsession with Wi-Fi was they could not contain it. They're like, Frank, you're crazy. You just have to do with less and so on. And we worked it out. We found a middle ground. Now we've got super fast Wi-Fi everywhere, and no one's complaining. You know?
But are you living with the family, or have
Yeah.
you? Okay.
Yeah, because part of the thing that happened is when my dad passed away, that was a significant income that was not being met. So, and there are a lot of things that are undone. So, like I know personally for us, we've got like 3 farms that we have. So all of them need to be tended. All of them have got employees. You have to pay the bills and everything. But it was also, I loved the crisis of my dad's death. It's not good to say that, but it forced us to ponder some solutions that we never have looked at if that didn't happen. And it has made us the better for it because we now started to invest as a family. You know, like if you buy an office, instead of just buying one for myself and one for my brother, no, you buy it for the whole family. If you buy a fleet of vehicles, you're buying it for the whole family. If you buy maybe like a vacation home, you're buying it for the family. Like it becomes easier to manage those finances once you know there's going to be multiple use out of them, or if they're investments, it's easier to raise up the capital for investments when you are a bunch of people and you're focused at something. And then it also brings dirty discussions of succession clauses and who gets what when something happens, and starting this new paradigm where it's not an individual because the property still remains. The property can serve a lot more people. So how does that look like? Like even when I have my businesses and so on, I may be the expert in that industry. My mom, my brother, my sister might not be. But if I can see someone else in our family who's got that knack, can I leave it to them? Because it offers them a step up. So it's brought up certain discussions, certain new ways of working that are not like what was there before. You see, like, I mean, they go down to tiny, tiny practices. Like we had, I mean, something as simple as my dad's burial and where he's buried. According to our customs, you're buried in front of your house. But that doesn't make sense to us because, like, if you have a property that has, let's say, 100 acres, are you going to have graves strewn through the entire property? And what makes sense is like, no, small graveyard. Everyone in the family can be there, and even when we have time when we need to remember them, we can go all to one place as opposed to trekking all over the place. But you see, you're breaking norms, you're breaking customs, you're breaking the way people have thought about things, and these are the hang-ups you bring from the outside, because I mean, it can be at that base level, it can be even at the level of like even looking at potential suitors and so on, and what do they look like, what should they have, and so on. And I think what has helped my situation is that the family is very open to having all those discussions. And especially because you've already created a space where you're willing to think the unthinkable, then it allows for a conversation to happen. And yeah, you get very interesting results out of it.
What would you say the biggest hang up was?
I think it is and still will be the fact that I'm not yet married, and it's always going to be. I mean, because I mean the content, the people, your parents, your whole village unit is always primed at. So who comes next? You know, and what do they look like, and what are they going to do? Yeah, it's the discussion. It's the preeminent. There's no way you can run away from it. It's a daily discussion.
Oh my God! As you say it, I feel the weight. I say, God, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how.
Doesn't matter. I'm a successful businessman. I'm a successful artist. I'm a successful farmer, entrepreneur. All these things are thrown to the wayside. So who's your wife? Oof. And you know,
just so you know, you are nothing without women.
If you hadn't discovered it before, discover it now. Frank minus woman, 0.
Well, I'm glad your family keeps reminding you. Okay, so let's digress from that. But tell me, you've had a culture shock coming to the US?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Was there a culture shock going back?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I would say it's at 3 levels. One, your friends, or who you thought were your friends when you left, they moved on. And you are not, when you come back, it's like it's good you're back, but they just go back to their lives because you sort of don't factor into some of the things that they're doing. So it's difficult because, like, I think things remain stagnant for you once you leave. You're always like thinking that, oh, they'll connect with me back and so on, but they built new structures, they built new friend structures. So you kind of have to create new friends. Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is the bureaucracy and process versus what you're used to on the other side. Oh yeah. And
how many times did you lose it in a public space? Tell me. Tell the truth.
Pardon?
How many times did you lose it in an office? Or
I still do. I have a short fuse and it gets tested every time. And I mean, I can tell you yesterday the telecom company was, my internet was not working. I had words and I was willing to go crazy. Yeah.
Well,
My Wi-Fi
I'll believe with your Wi-Fi. Yeah, I'll believe it. I mean, what's the first thing you did for yourself? You're like, I got Wi-Fi. I can imagine like a full-fledged drama queen unraveling just because your Wi-Fi isn't working. God forbid.
Yeah. So, yeah, the bureaucracy is interesting. The, there's there are things that don't make sense, and I mean, yeah, you'll think it, but yeah, you'll still lose it. So I think what I've learned is to give a little bit more grace than I used to.
Okay.
It's difficult still. Yeah. And then the third one is about privilege and what you have. And I was shy about using it, and I don't think I'm shy anymore. I will bulldoze you if it's going to get me my way. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Bulldoze.
Yeah, somewhat. I
Why
mean,
would you say
okay,
you were uncomfortable using your privilege?
because it felt unfair. It's always been unfair because it's like, by the way, you're educated, maybe you come from a good family name, and you can call up like a few public officials and get your way. But if you don't, you lose a lot of time and energy in this. You're mired in minutia, like I I think of like, I mean, you could get stopped by the cops, and it's so easy for the cops to just know, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and it ends there. But if you don't use your privilege, I mean, the conversation could be dragged out for a whole day,
Ugh.
and yeah, so it's not worth it.
What made the shift for you to start getting comfortable in doing that? Was that the culture shock? Is that you know you had to start using you realize like, no, I'm gonna get comfortable using my privilege? Because I feel like your disinterest in leveraging whatever that privilege was existed prior to leaving to the US.
Yes, yeah,
Um, because of what I remember from meeting you, you weren't living or carrying yourself like some of the brothers that we had
no,
who were coming from privilege, or even were not coming from privilege, but were able to rock privilege the way,
yeah.
you know, well, in many ways.
I
So,
know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, we were both there.
Yeah. Um, I think the shift has come because if you don't, because of your accent, and when someone knows that you probably went outside to study and so on, everyone assumes you've got a better life. And especially if they're in avenues of power, they want to make you suffer a lot more. And just to stop it, like in its tracks, you kind of have to step in and use some of those structures, because the question is, do you abuse it or do you use it for a means? And it's down to everyone's interpretation, but I feel like you can use it for good. So I'll give you an example. There's one night I'm driving home, and I it's about 11 p.m. at night, so it's pretty late. I'm coming from some party with my friends, and I find this guy has gotten into an accident under a bridge, and it's notoriously hard to call the police to come and sort of do their measurements and stuff, especially that late at night. So I stopped by the side of the road and, yeah, get out, and I asked this young man can I help? And he's like, if you can get the police here to do that thing, I don't mind. So the police show up after so many calls, almost an hour and a half later. And I'm still standing there with this guy. But now, because he lost control of his vehicle, and everyone always assumes that you are drunk or something of the sort. So he's in a lot of trouble. And the cops on our end are already asking him for a bribe so that they can make it go away. So that's happening. And I'm like, okay, I'll stick with you till it's all done so that no one messes with you. And literally, now the biggest issue became, why is this guy hanging around this kid? And so on. And because I kept on telling them, if I were that kid, I would want me here. And I didn't care. I mean, I was all up in their faces. I was like, okay, you need to tow the vehicle. I'll call my friends who've got a towing company. They'll come tow the vehicle for a subsidized rate as opposed to what you're charging this kid. Both tow trucks show up, and I'm like, no, put it on my friend's tow truck, let it go. When we get to the police station, I mean, this kid is scared out of his wits. I mean, he's just been in an accident, can barely negotiate his way out. So now you step in and say, no, this is how it's supposed to go, and this is what is going to be done. I'll call my lawyer. It's 2 a.m, but my lawyer will show up, and you'll not like it when they show up. And, keeping on asking all these questions. When they present something that doesn't make sense to me, I pick up the phone and I'm like, yeah, commandant of traffic, tell me, is this how it's supposed to be done? No, this is how it's done. And I'm like, that's your boss saying this is how it's done. So go ahead, do it exactly that way, and so on. And literally, the accident happened at about 11:30 in the morning. I was leaving the police station with this kid at about 4:30 a.m. And he told me, thank you. He's like, that would have gone a lot more differently if you weren't there. And I don't know why you even stood there, why you even stuck around, and so on. In my view, that's how you sort of use privilege to sort of get the skills right. And I know it would have been so different, but if I have it and it's not harming me to use it, that's what I'll do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I told you before, and I say it again, the world needs more Frankies.
Oh
no. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Now, give us an update about Kenya. What does the family need to know about Kenya today? What's happening in Kenya today?
Kenya is an interesting country. It's got so many opportunities, both financial and development, growth, and so on. It's amazing. The hard part is literally having the income or the capital to make those dreams come true, and sort of people you can team up with. I think over the years, as I've done business, I've now come to understand better what good partnerships can bring to the table and how they can change how you approach everything about what life is like. So to me, that's the best. That's the best thing I can say about Kenya. There's everything: bureaucracy, roadblocks here and there, and so on. But time is your best friend. If you're, pardon?
I said, but they're everywhere. These roadblocks are everywhere. These roadblocks are here. Like they're in the US, they're in Japan, they're in wherever you are. There'll be roadblocks because that's just life. It's how you grow. It's how you test your limits. It's how you toy with crisis mode. And and go beyond and jump beyond. But what would you say?
Time is your best friend. I mean, time will allow you to think through things, see them through, watch things change. There are things I've seen happening here that have not happened, or in my wildest dreams, I'd never think of them happening. So I usually, when I'm confronted with a situation that feels like I can't use my privilege and I can't use my strength to fix it, time will always be there to sort of shine a different light to the situation.
I want you to know that one of the traditions we have at Africa Week 2020
Oh,
is
God.
that we gather quotes that resonate with us, that inspire us, and we put them up here. And the thing is, there's already a quote from you here, something you
Oh,
said.
Lord.
The bravest thing a family can do is give you grace. And, you know, eventually we're going to be making these into t-shirts.
Yeah.
This is one from earlier today, Activism,
Lord.
It Chooses You, by Sama,
That's a good one.
isn't it?
Yeah.
This one's my favorite so far.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, it keeps growing.
Oh, wow. Okay, let me know. I'd love to help you design some of those t-shirts.
You know, you don't just throw stuff like that out at me and then just like take it and leave. You know, I'll be back for it.
I know what I'm doing when Dima is involved, so I know what I'm getting myself into. So don't worry about that.
I see. I'm not going to respond to the throwing of the shade, Frankie. I'm not.
It's not shade, it's respect.
Oh, always had your way with words. Cheers.
Good at that.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I mean, you're again. You're one of the references, one of the points, one of the pointers to. So every morning on my side here, Eastern Standard Time,
Yeah.
part of Africa Week 2020, we start the day with a little talk, a little chat, an open discussion with the family, saying what's right with Africa. You are definitely right with Africa, and it's a great reminder. And I remember, you remember that time we came from Towson to JMU with 3 buses. We had the International Students bus, we had the African Diaspora bus, we had the Muslim Student Association bus, and like we basically took over.
Yeah, we used to call you guys the Towson crew, and you guys are like a virus. You just show up.
I don't know who you're calling guys here.
So
correct yourself.
The guys and queens would show up and take over. Is that good enough?
Yes. Yes. Wait, I approve. Wait, it's back there. I have to push it back so you can. If you think I'm joking, no, wait, funny. No, funny? It's not. This ain't no joke. This is.
Oh damn!
You know, it's like, say it again.
Yes, queen.
You know, just to bring it back to people who think we're here to play. We're not here to play. Frankie, I know you're doing quite a bit, and I don't want to be greedy in, well, I really could, but I don't want to take too much more of your time. I do want you to be more engaged, obviously, with Africa Week 2020, because you clearly have a lot to give. No, seriously, like, look, so far we have 4 tips that are not useful for someone who is returning to the continent, but also someone who's going for the first time. These are all tips that are very important. And right now, more than ever, we have we have like a deliberate movement, a deliberate um, urge to return, to connect to the
I
motherland.
think I'll tell you what I'm interested in. I'm interested in discussions that have direction and depth, and not necessarily tackling a really big problem, but zeroing it down to what will help our brothers and sisters sort of navigate this world. And for me, it's something as simple as if I'm a woman and I want to make it in in Africa, what are things I should be considering before I move back? Or how do I deal with depression from like putting all my energy into all these things and it seeming like I can't get a way out. So, I mean, it all centers on trying to help other people, but the bottom line is the things that interest me are things that I can literally point someone to and say, hey, listen to that, look at that, have a discussion with so and so, and it'll change your outlook on what it is. And I feel that the more people that have got that ability to change our outlook, that come on these forums or come and interact with us, that's how we change the narrative. It means we need to engage, but beyond engaging, we need to rehabilitate and build and
To
give
empower one
confidence.
another, to
Yeah, yeah,
empower one another, whether it's in
yeah,
reclaiming the narrative or
yeah.
balancing and juggling the things that are thrown at us, whether it's roadblocks or crises or just, helping
And
one another.
I truly want practical things. Like I would love for one of your sessions to end up with a money market fund that is generated for brothers and sisters that are looking to come to Africa. And
Did we
hey,
have a panel on that?
yeah,
We have a panel on let me pull up the calendar. It is Friday. Oh, but it's going to be like stupid o'clock in Kenya. It's going to be at
doesn't
3:30.
I have
3:30.
Wi-Fi? It doesn't matter.
You're really gonna wake up at 3:30 in the morning.
I do it for my friends in the US all the time.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
there's going to be a panel about the diasporans who are looking to repatriate
yeah,
and go to the continent. But what they're looking at is, how do we start looking at some form of
yeah,
building a generational wealth, building this fund? So one of the conversations actually that we had in the inaugural one was the Institute for Family Development. They're looking at African countries removing or waiving the visa fees and
yeah.
putting those visa fee towards a fund, a diaspora fund that would then facilitate this repatriation
Okay.
for people to go home. But again, as long as the governments are involved in the current state of affairs, as far as I'm concerned, they're just not going to materialize. And that's my personal opinion, and that's where I stand on things.
But we can, I believe we can change that because the more of us that come onto these forums and maybe have pursuits that end up in government, you know, when we step into some of those spaces, you end up being the right person to now begin changing the conversations because I mean I'll never stop embracing crises, in that sense. And if that's the crisis that is created on the other side, then so be it. It allows you to start thinking about different ways to approach things.
So, Frankie, I put this out for you now.
Yeah.
Come up with a 1 hour session, a 1 hour lesson for us. You signed up for this. You knew what you were doing when you clicked on that link. Don't roll your eyes at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't study finance. I can't even begin to come up with that. But one of the things I was really, really hoping, and it was one of
Yeah.
the proposed panels, is looking at Black Wall Street and how we can bring that back. And if not bring it back, elements of it can we take and learn to rebuild or breathe life into that on a global scale for this global Black Lives Movement, you know, so that it can really truly connect the continent and the diaspora, and not just from the angle or from the perspective of the African Union. Because as far as the African Union is concerned, this added sixth region of the diaspora, it's really to bring in the Jay-Z's and the Beyoncés with their rap and hip hop money, but not really invest in the communities.
I'll tell you something interesting that we've been pondering. My sister is doing her postdoc at Vanderbilt University, and is one of the best immuno-researchers that there are, especially in the biotech field. And we were stunned that in the continent there was very few agencies that were looking at, hey, how can we create our own version of a vaccine for the coronavirus in Africa? You get, and you're starting to look at, okay, let's now just, coronavirus might be for now, but now things that afflict a lot of Africans. You look at, cancer is the highest killer of Africans, yet no money is being dedicated fully to that particular set of things. And talking of diasporans out there, I would rather take the researcher, the doctor that is coming here to do research on cancer than Beyonce or Jay-Z. I mean, I'm okay with them, but literally, I could benefit more when they come and help us out, or even build some, because once we start it, we'll run with it. But dude, I mean, we're not even at the point where someone is even thinking, oh yeah, I can go and do that in Africa. And that's where the conversations needs to shift. But yeah, I'll be there. I'll do as much as I can.
No. You can't just tap on a topic and just leave it there. Are you ready for this? Because we actually have a panel on that too.
You can't have me on all your panels.
I don't want you on that panel. I'm just saying, I'm just saying, if this is something that you're saying, this is a conversation you've been having with your sister, this is something that you've been looking into, we do have a panel on what does science diplomacy look like in the on the Afrocentric research landscape, on the Pan-African research landscape. What does science diplomacy look like? What is Afrocentric science diplomacy? How can we not just connect diasporan researchers or continental diasporans doing their research, whether it's undergrad or postgrad or postdocs or whatever, to the continent and to their respective countries, but more importantly, how can we connect the diasporans themselves to the researchers, the continental diasporans or the continental researchers? Like, we have the African Academy of Science in Kenya, and where are they when it comes to science diplomacy? Why aren't they running a particular unit where they are really animating a science and technology counselor? No, this doesn't take money, because I personally went to the African Union and I said, I volunteer my time because I am going to these meetings anyway. I am a member of the Science Diplomats Club at Washington, D.C., and I am the only sister there representing African research. There's another sister, but she's representing France.
I will tell you why it needs money. Is because the people, or the wave that you need to support you to do some of these things is dictated by how much funding is there for research. And the funding needs to be adequate enough that our brothers and sisters can consider it. The more people that consider it, is the more noise that is made in the research industry. And it begins to move people towards that place. Because you can provide the funds and you can provide the environment, but if the brains and the talent is not there to actually make good of that research, you will run aground of some things.
Yeah, but don't you think that that's another perpetuated lie driven into the continent and driven into our narrative, that there's somehow this brain drain is the biggest challenge for Africa? That we don't, well, our brain isn't leaking. Africa's brain is thriving. We have plenty going on. We could use more circulation, but it's not, there's no drainage here. There's regenerated innovation. I mean, I went to the Zayed Sustainability Summit in 2019. In fact, one of them is going to be featured today after 2020. They created, and one, because they were two students of the African Leadership Academy. One of them is now based in Kenya. His name is Jesse Forrester, and his partner is Wuntia Gonda, who's based in Ghana. And they both created a living machine solutions to respond to climate change and to water and to agriculture. And it's phenomenal stuff. And we're talking about kids. We're talking about kids in school who had a school project that is now a business. Now, if we're looking at how to scale that, if we're looking at how to connect our dots to really have that kind of impact, then you think institutions like the African Union that is coming here and they have this mission in Washington, D.C., and they're harping about the diaspora and connecting and come home. Come home to what? You're sitting here planning a Wakanda city.
My argument is that if you were to give a few researchers the funding that they needed to set up the research, because don't forget that people too, they have families, they are looking at it from a very stark environment. They've trained for this all their lives. You've gone through the PhD program. You know how grueling it is. And at the end of that, the light at the end of the tunnel is usually either academia or industry. And most of them are more comfortable in academia, right? And if the research opportunity exists for them, or the funds are there for them to be able to carry out their research here, right? That will open those doors. And why do I say that? I say that because here you are talking about those two individuals. I think from a research perspective, you're able to unlock 20, 30, 40 individuals if they're working alongside these people doing their research in all these institutions. And that's the thing that is failing, because in a sense, these two gentlemen, yes, they'll create this wonderful machine and wonderful business opportunity, but it's locked in two people, right? Once the research is being done in a university setting and all these other kids come around them, you're inspiring 13, 14, 15 individuals per research grant.
Yes, I'm with you there, but there is no shortage of, like, what allowed me that position to join and to be privy to the conversations that are happening within science diplomacy, for which we as people of African ancestry are lacking. We are missing this conversation because, I repeat, there was not one African science counselor around the table. I was there, but I am not a science counselor. I don't represent any particular government. I was going representing myself and representing the Nubia Initiative. That was it. Now, what allowed me that was that I was consulting for a European Commission funded project that the goal of that project is to promote researcher mobility, is to promote collaboration between European researchers and European institutes and around the world. So the grants that are available for people regardless of their background, regardless of their nationality, regardless of where they are in the world, regardless of their research career status. The only thing that is required is excellence, and we have excellence. So when
we
you
have
go
excellence, but it's not recognized out there, because you see, I'll give you an example. There's a grant that is coming in from the UK that is maybe about £200,000 per year, right? But they're only willing to give it to a researcher who has had postdoc experience outside Africa.
Okay.
Yet it's for Kenya. I mean, it's for Africa, Zimbabwe, all this, the southern states, right? So this grant is there, but it's predicated upon the person winning the grant or the person applying the grant to be from outside this region.
To be from outside this region and going back?
Not necessarily going back. They want them to work in the region, right?
But have studied from abroad.
Yes.
Okay. And that's something that we need to work on. That's something that we need to build on, like ourselves. Because again, we go back to, if we don't recognize our value, we have no right and no place to say others aren't recognizing our value. I am 1000% there. Okay. That said, among the African researchers and the African Research Network, the Pan-African Research Network, I can count on one hand, and I won't finish the fingers, how many of them actually know or actually knew that there is, in fact, an African Academy of Science.
It's true.
There are Kenyan researchers who do not know that Kenya is home to the African Academy of Research, of Science.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's forget
it's sad.
that. No, that's not sad. That's disastrous. That's not sad.
It's disastrous.
It is because if you don't know the hub, the place that is actually linked with funding agencies like NIH, like NAS, the National Academy of Sciences in the US, the American the American Association of the Advancement of Sciences, all these institutions that have grants specifically for research collaboration. If you don't have them, you know, and they have fellowships. Okay, if you have fellowships, you're a Kenyan researcher. What and you don't know where to apply for a fellowship when you have an institution in your country that is getting other African researchers as fellows. If you're not making use of that, if you're not getting access to that, then there's a huge communication gap that we need to work on.
And the reality is that they are not aware of it, and maybe that's where people like me need to come in and do. If we're so good at marketing for other businesses and mine, this is what we should be doing, and marketing these opportunities that exist. It's difficult to market it when you are not sure that it will reach the individuals that need it the most, right? And there's two funnels, right? There's our brothers and sisters that are abroad that have made it, right? And need to consider coming home to do some of this groundbreaking research. And there's our researchers who are on the continent and are ready and willing to do the research, and they're here, but their heads are so deep in the papers and the libraries trying to put out good papers that they can't raise their head long enough to actually see this opportunity existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perhaps one of the things I'm hoping will come out of this panel is establishing this network, whereas our brothers and sisters who are abroad, who are part of or affiliated with research institutions abroad, are able to use these grants. Because if you're saying, you know, that grant from the UK that's 200,000 a year, the grants I'm talking to you about are like 3 million euros, 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's really designing to build a full team, a full-fledged team of research. But you need to be affiliated with a European institution. Now, if you have an African sister, an African brother who is already there at a European institution, then you're able to say, okay, I'll apply for this grant as the principal investigator, and then I can collaborate with you. Anyway, I have taken too much of your time. It is an hour and a half in when I said I will take, well, I didn't actually set a time because I said,
You
you
did
will
not.
tell me. You said you will,
You
I said,
knew.
you will tell
You
me.
knew exactly what you were doing, and you did not set any parameters. It's fine.
I
You're
don't
still
like
young.
restricting myself. Setting parameters, like putting a label on myself. Nah, no, no. Frank, I am so, so grateful that you shared, you came through that. First of all, that I am seeing your face. This is amazing. This is amazing. Thank you, Africa Week 2020. Now it's like
Thank
it's
you.
a proper reunion on
Um,
a much personal level. Give me one last tip so that we have 5 tips. People who are looking to come, whether to Kenya specifically or to the
yeah,
continent. One last tip.
I'll just say, be kind to yourself. Like, give yourself forgiveness. Give yourself grace. These decisions are hard to make. Don't let the guilt drive you to a point. Understand you'll fail, but give yourself the grace to do it and to come back up, because Africa is about resilience. It's about how you get up
Oh, you are
from.
firing quotes left, right, and center.
Oh Lord. I
Okay.
mean, it's what we are. It's just how we've been built, and we always get up and fix it. That's who we've been. We've always gotten up and fixed it. Yeah. I
Thank you.
think if you're coming on, just know you'll fall. Just get up, fix it. That's all you can do.
Voila, you heard it here. We have the 5 tips of to keep in mind as you consider coming back to the continent and answering Mama Africa's call, like Frank here has done, going back from Virginia to Kenya, starting his own business, and hopefully he'll be tuning in to some of our panels and sharing more of this wisdom and more of how we can create this generational wealth so that we can all.
Yes.
Frank,
Come
I
back.
send you love as you continue your day. I am so
Thank
very
you.
grateful to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful day and to be continued. I will see you on some of these panels, my friend.
Thank you very much. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.